All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Seattle Seahawks. Rasheed Shaheed, he's in his fourth NFL season. He's got about 500 receiving yards on the year. He's also got 44 catches. That's actually 2 away from a career high. This is a guy who every year before now has averaged like 17 yards per catch. He's 27 years old. He actually entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent back in 2022. And literally 1 year later, he was a Pro Bowl selection and a first-team All-Pro as a punt returner. He's also played under Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak last year with the Saints. He was actually on pace for around 1,000 yards and then unfortunately suffered a season-ending knee injury. But yeah, I saw Bruce Arians today call him a touchdown waiting to happen. He is a big-time playmaker, and I think it was Derek Carr who tweeted, like, just throw it up there and he'll find it. He'll track that ball down. So I just love when teams double down on their strengths, and Seattle's offense is a really big strength this season. You know, the trade deadline was today. It just finished. Actually, it technically finishes in 10 minutes, and I don't believe Seattle's going to make a move, because if you do, you won't see this video. But I just, like, the defense, I couldn't really even tell you what to fix on the defense. I don't think the defense needs any type of fixing in any way, shape, or form. They're 5th in scoring, giving up less than 19 points per game. They're the 2nd best rushing defense in the NFL. They're 4th in touchdowns allowed. They're 3rd in sacks with 27. They're 10th in takeaways per game, around a takeaway and a half. And I just think the only thing you could ask for on defense as far as like trade deadline moves is just health. Like if I could take like a health potion for that secondary specifically, maybe that would work. But offensively, folks, double down, baby. Now it is important to note, and actually before we get into the important note, and the important note is just injuries, but hit that like button, hit that sub button. We actually made a Seahawks video yesterday. We post a couple of Seahawks videos every single week. Love you guys as always. Try and get this one to 250 likes. Shoot for the moon. It really makes a very big difference, so thank you guys. 5th in scoring. The Seahawks are 5th in scoring at 29 points per game. They're 4th in passing yards per game. The one weakness, like we mentioned yesterday, or actually the 2 weaknesses, is just the rushing offense and just turnovers. They're turning the ball over a little bit too much, and they're not having much consistent, reliable success running the football. Now, Rashid Shaheed, once again, played under Clint Kubiak last season, and I think this is a really important piece because, first off, I also think John Schneider is kind of evaluating the future here. He's an unrestricted free agent next season, so we're kind of seeing, like, all right, is it a long-term piece? But you also have to keep in mind, Cooper dealt with, a heel injury, and then tweaked his hamstring in practice on Thursday. So Cooper Kupp didn't play in the football game on Sunday night, or Monday, was it? Man, I'm like losing track of days. Sunday night, there we go, against Washington. And Cooper's, he's getting up there in age, and JSN is the best wide receiver in football right now. You could argue JJ, Jamar Chase, whatever, but this season, JSN is wide receiver number 1. So there's a little uncertainty with Cooper Kupp, whether it's health or just reliability in this new system, on this new team. Torrey Horton, the rookie, stepped up huge, and whenever his name's gotten called upon, he has risen to the occasion. 2 touchdowns in that football game, and here's just the top 4 on paper. JSN, Cooper Kupp, Shaheed, Torrey Horton. Rashid Shaheed has a 94.5 PFF grade on targets over 20-plus yards since 2023. And here's a fun fact. Sam Darnold actually has a 97.4 passing grade on 20-plus yard throws since 2024. And that was one thing I really liked about him with the Minnesota Vikings last season, especially in their 5 or 6 game win streak that started off that Vikings just crazy 14-win campaign last year. Sam Darnold's not afraid to take these deep shots at all. And he's also currently on pace for 4,400 yards, 34 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. And once again, you got to keep in mind, this is without a consistent running game. And this team is currently 1st in the NFC West. They're one of the best teams in the NFC, let alone, or the NFL, let alone the NFC. And Darnold actually leads the NFL in passer rating on deep throws. Folks, he's got a 150.6 passer rating when throwing more than 20 yards downfield, all right? His EPA per dropback on play-action passes trails only Lamar Jackson, and he's averaging more than 15 air yards per play-action pass, which is 4 more than any other quarterback currently in the National Football League. So when I look at this Seahawks team, they're averaging 6.3 yards per play, and Darnold just is genuinely an MVP candidate right now. I also think JSN is just genuinely an MVP candidate. One thing I'm a little bit curious about with Shaheed's impact outside of deep passes is if he can be some type of extension in the run game. Seattle's averaging 104 rushing yards per game, which maybe 20 years ago would have cut it, but that's 22nd in the NFL, so bottom 10 in the league. Charbonnet is just a really interesting player. I'm playing him in fantasy football here. He has not had a good season. Ken Walker, health is really the thing stopping Ken. Blocking lanes, the run game's just kind of odd, and I don't think the Seahawks being a bottom 10 rushing attack is going to last too long. Now, as far as Shaheed in the running game, he's not really. I've got it pulled up right here. Let's see. He's had 2 attempts this season. He had 6 attempts last year, 7 attempts the year before that, and then 4 in his rookie season. So not expecting too many jet action or jet sweeps or whatever. But I am curious with screens. Clint Kubiak, they love running these heavy personnels where you've got AJ Barner out there, you've got Arroyo, you've got some tight ends, Cooper Kupp, JSN, all these guys, Torrey, they're willing blockers. And I am just kind of curious if Clint Kubiak's going to deploy him right out of the gate as just a screen guy, just kind of get an extension of that running game, because the running game is just, it's not working well. Or I should say it's more so just not working consistently, and it's not a talent thing. And what's also weird is I don't think it's an offensive line thing. Anthony Bradford at right guard is probably the weak link on Seattle's offense. I love your 2 tackles in Charles Cross and Abe Lucas. I don't really think it's an offensive line thing. So that's really the move, Rashid Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks, and I think it's exciting, man. I think it helps get this offense to the next level, and I think it makes them obviously way more explosive. Now you've got 2 guys who can just burn you off the top in Torrey Horton and Rashid Shaheed, and then you got JSN working the way in the middle, and it just helps add another dynamic, explosive aspect to the Seahawks offense. So I loved it. I also liked the return, or just what you gave up. I think it was, I had it screenshot, a 2026 4th and 5th round pick for Shaheed. So let me know your thoughts. Give me maybe a grade rating. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. Peace.